Often they are either, they're like in some sort of hidden away area, whether it's like an alleyway or behind a building. Often you have to find the place.
We don't want a business. We're not running a business. We want to be able to have some crazy events, some good gig parties. That's all we want to do.
Big bands didn't start from nowhere. They don't just show up and play at Massey Hall.
Toronto vit une crise de l'immobilier depuis quelques années déjà. La pénurie chronique de propriétés a fait grimper les prix et plusieurs quartiers ont changé de visage.
I know we'll find a way.
When we grew up, we came out of the 90s sort of hip-hop scene and house music scene, and there was just so much more DIY stuff. There was warehouse parties. Stuff was affordable. You could live here and work part-time. And just over the 18, 20 years that we've lived here, we've just seen it become so expensive. I think we're having a reverse of like when poor and working class and immigrant folks and artists lived in cities, and then people lived in the suburbs if you had money. So we're actually seeing the shift of that. So I kind of laugh about it to be like, we're just going to move to the suburbs.
La surchauffe s'est intensifiée dans la dernière année. Les condos dominent le paysage urbain. La scène artistique et culturelle est durement touchée.
Literally look at any of the stuff that used to be where Liberty Village is now, and that was where the entire after-hours scene of Toronto existed for the most part, right through all the way to the East End. You know, like there was the biggest clubs in the city, like the Government and places like that got pushed out for condo development.
Dans la dernière année, la liste s'est allongée. Des bars et boîtes de nuit mythiques Silver Dollar Room, The Hideout, Not My Dog et The Hoxton ont fermé leurs portes. Le bar à spectacle de Central sera transformé en condo, tout comme son voisin, le légendaire magasin à rabais Honest Ed. Le Matador, vieux de 100 ans, se bat pour ne pas devenir un stationnement et le cabaret Hughes Room s'accroche toujours, mais a dû fermer ses portes pendant plusieurs mois.
It's kind of all over the place. This is a techno collection that I bought off of some other Toronto DJs that have stopped playing because they're so frustrated with the landscape of it. Brooklyn's gone through the exact same problems that Toronto went through, but they went through them 10 years ago. And I mean, it kind of makes sense that, you know, Toronto is the city that wants to be New York.
People are getting kicked out of everywhere because condo developers are buying up spaces, and it's like, nothing's affordable.
Le Hideout a fermé ses portes en février, quelques jours seulement après notre visite. Peu d'établissements du genre subsistent à Toronto.
Holyoke is kind of a lot of things to a lot of different communities, whether it be people playing funk or jazz on a Tuesday or DJs. Sometimes we have big queer parties where people come and, you know, just express themselves. As a lot of the music that happens here is stuff that's not, you know, it doesn't have a huge stage. It's things that people are trying out.
Mais le loyer a doublé en 8 ans. À bout de souffle, les propriétaires ont jeté l'éponge.
Rent control exists for residential people, but like for a business, if the landlord wants to raise the rent $3,000 or $1 million or anything, once the contract's over, they can do whatever they want.
Face à la pénurie de salles de spectacle, les artistes se tournent vers les do-it-yourself ou DIY, des concerts souvent illégaux, organisés dans des appartements ou des entrepôts désaffectés.
You come into the space and you're like, oh, there's a regular kitchen, a regular bathroom. You realize it's sort of a house, an apartment, right? When people are here for the first time, it's like, oh, it's a really weird, interesting apartment. We're in someone's house, you know? And it's like, but there's a mini ramp, you know? And there's this really awesome band playing in this mini ramp inside this really weird house.
Often they are either, they're like in some sort of hidden away area, whether it's like an alleyway or behind a building or just, yeah, somewhere unique that isn't the regular, you know, bar, window, venue sign, big lineup.
Some of our biggest Canadian exports, music-wise, have started in DIY spaces and in small grassroots spaces. Grimes and like Arcade Fire, when bigger bars have no room for us to play or have never heard of us before, it's these smaller DIY spaces and grassroots venues that have like taken us in with open arms and have housed us and fed us and like showed us around town.
S'ils sont importants pour les artistes, les DIY le sont aussi pour plusieurs communautés marginalisées. Et ceux qui les organisent préfèrent souvent garder l'anonymat.
And I started throwing parties because I wanted to provide a space for women, for sort of more, for people of color, and for LGBTQ people. We just don't post the venue on Facebook. Not anything that's public. And then we'll email people who buy tickets the address.
So the ghost ship fire happened in Oakland, right?
2 décembre 2016, un feu éclate dans un DIY situé à Oakland, en Californie. 33 personnes périssent dans l'incendie.
It would kind of send out alerts amongst the North American DIY community. It's like, holy crap, this is awful.
Peu de temps après, des internautes anonymes du site d'extrême droite 4chan partent en croisade contre les DIY, qu'ils décrivent comme des dangers publics et des bassins ouverts de radicalisme et de dégénérescence libérale. Ils compilent une liste et les dénoncent auprès des autorités.
And at some point, a lone GTA participant offered up soy bomb. He's like, oh, there's one of these places in my city too. But then, early January, 8:30, 9:30 in the morning, fire inspectors at our door.
Le service d'incendie de Toronto ordonne la fermeture de Soy Bomb, un DIY bien connu. L'endroit n'est pas conforme aux normes de sécurité incendie. Peu de temps après, le DIY Double Land dans le quartier Kensington connaît le même sort. Cette fois, les autorités estiment qu'il ne respecte pas les règles de zonage.
Our curtains are like sprayed with fire retardant. We have like an extinguisher on stage. We have an extinguisher like at the back of the room. We even have like an exit sign. It's becoming like Manhattan or something. Like Manhattan is just, culturally speaking, other than the big institutions, is like dead.
They're really nervous now, and since the soy bomb closure, like since it hit home in Toronto, now everyone is just completely on edge, I find, without naming any of the venues, but a lot of the venues that were flying under the radar, that were given a free pass by Toronto, and are really like staples of this neighborhood in Kensington Market, or just a lot of the like young neighborhoods, they're not working right now, which is really unfortunate.
Artists are leaving, you know, I have friends moving to Hamilton.
I mean, the consequences of not nurturing that sort of cross-cultural dialogue or creating safe spaces for people of color or the gay community or trans community or super straight community being able to nurture ideas is that you end up with like very homogenous culture. And unfortunately, that's what I feel is happening in Toronto. You know, when you look at rap music, the biggest purveyor of street culture is a child actor from Forest Hills. Like, that's crazy to me, you know?
Even before those things start getting exposed, communities of color have always been in danger. You know, whether they're even queer or not, like hip-hop shows in the 90s were massive, and then they got shut down because they were too big, and you know, it scared people.
Certains DIY fonctionnent pourtant en toute légalité. Mais encore là, ils se butent au même problème que les autres.
We program monthly between November and March. We're an inter-arts festival. Came originally out of the punk and DIY scenes in Toronto. For the past 4 years, we operated successfully out of the Great Hall. This year, we lost our space at the Great Hall, and now we're currently we're homeless. We float around.
Chose rare à Toronto, leurs événements sont ouverts aux gens de tout âge. Long Winter a reçu des accolades des magazines Rolling Stone et Pitchfork, mais le festival DIY peine à survivre.
Partly because we function with a volunteer staff, we didn't have the capacity to apply for every single possible grant last year.
Sans les DIY et les salles de spectacle, où se produiront les artistes? Et c'est sans compter les retombées économiques de l'industrie musicale pour la ville, environ 700 millions de dollars par année. Plusieurs pressent le conseil municipal d'intervenir.
Oakland, who pledged, whatever, 1.3 million to bringing existing DIY spaces up to code and whatnot. I don't see anything like that happening here.
Can they do some kind of a rent control system for, music venue owners, for example? What can we do about NIMBYism, people who move downtown and then complain about the noise?
La ville commence tout juste à s'intéresser au problème. En février, le comité consultatif sur l'industrie musicale de la ville a organisé une table ronde pour sonder les principaux intéressés.
Cities just don't understand them. They really don't get them. So they get a complaint from a neighbor, and in typical, municipal government fashion, they come out with this arsenal of people.
Bodies into chance, there's no road.
Let's look at zoning. Where can you have certain businesses? Could you have music clubs in employment areas that typically they weren't allowed into before? Does the zoning rules right now almost encourage condo development that kicks out locally owned businesses, music or otherwise?
Should there be tax credits or different tax assessments for arts and cultural venues like music?
Plusieurs grandes villes ont le même problème. Entre 2007 et 2015, Londres a perdu 35% de ses salles de spectacle à cause de la gentrification et de ses règles strictes concernant le zonage et le bruit de voisinage. Elle a depuis assoupli ses règles et instauré une série de mesures pour faciliter la création de nouvelles salles.
If you want real culture, you have to pay for it, and other cities do that.
I feel like that's a Band-Aid solution. Getting tax credits, it's oh, here's some money, here's $200 a month or whatever. Great, thanks for that, but how is that gonna measure up to these real estate developers who have, hundreds of thousands of dollars?
People that basically work their jobs, go home, watch TV, and have kids and whatever. They do their thing. Maybe a lot of them don't understand that the people that are providing them with this richness of culture, it starts somewhere, it doesn't just appear. It starts in places like this or Double Land or the Transac. And without them, the arts are suffocated and cities become really boring.
I think we'll become closer to what Vancouver is right now and just open up a lot of space for condo building and restaurants. And one day we'll wake up and a large part of Music City, Toronto won't exist.